I stared at my cousin Elena's face on the Forbes cover, her smile radiating from the magazine rack as CEO of Aquapure Technologies' $50 million success story. 6 months ago, she'd held my prototype in her hands at a family barbecue, promising to help me find manufacturers. Now she was claiming my invention as her own breakthrough. But as I pulled out my phone to show her the secret recording of our conversation, I realized she had no idea what was coming next. My name is Marcus Hall, and I'm 34 years old. 6 months ago, I was just another guy working double shifts at Henderson Manufacturing, coming home exhausted to my 8-year-old daughter, Sophia, every night. We lived in a rundown apartment complex where the rent was cheap and the water tasted like pennies. I didn't think much about it back then. Water was water, right? Well, that changed real fast. It was a Tuesday morning when Sophia started throwing up. At first, I figured it was just a stomach bug going around school. Kids get sick all the time. But by Thursday, she couldn't keep anything down. Her skin looked gray, and she was so weak she could barely lift her head off the pillow. The emergency room doctor took one look at her blood work and immediately started asking questions about our water supply. Turns out, our apartment complex had been covering up contamination issues for months. The pipes were so corroded that heavy metals and bacteria were flowing straight into our taps. Sophia had been drinking poison for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The doctor said if I'd waited another day to bring her in, we might have been planning a funeral instead of a recovery. That moment sitting in the hospital, watching my little girl hooked up to IV tubes, something inside me snapped. Not in a bad way, but in a focused way. I'd always been the type to tinker in my garage after work, fixing things, building little gadgets. Nothing fancy, just stuff that helped around the house. But now I had a mission that consumed every spare minute I had. Sleep became optional. After my factory shifts, I'd head straight to my garage and research everything I could about water contamination. YouTube videos, scientific papers, forums where actual engineers shared their knowledge. I burned through my savings buying materials, testing different filtration methods. Sophia would do her homework at my workbench while I experimented with carbon filters, reverse osmosis systems, and UV sterilization. The failures came fast and frequent. My first attempts looked like science fair projects that belonged in the trash. But each failure taught me something new about molecular structures and purification processes. I learned that most commercial systems were either too expensive for regular families or too weak to handle serious contamination. Then there's the breakthrough moment that changed everything. After 4 months of constant experimentation, I stumbled onto something incredible. By combining ultra thin graphene filters with a specific electromagnetic frequency, I could remove 99.9% of contaminants at a fraction of traditional costs. The science was elegant in its simplicity. Water molecules could pass through, but everything harmful got trapped or neutralized. My garage prototype worked better than systems costing 20 times more. I tested it on the nastiest water samples I could find. Pond water, rusty tap water, even samples from our old apartment. Crystal clear results every single time. Makes sense that I'd be excited, right? But here's where my story takes an interesting turn. Being a brilliant inventor and being a smart businessman are two completely different skills. I knew how to build the device, but I had no clue how to get it to market. Patent applications, manufacturing partnerships, investor pitches. All of that felt like a foreign language. That's when I made what felt like the smartest decision of my life. I filed my patent application on March 15th with every technical specification documented and time-stamped. Then I reached out to my cousin Elena at our family barbecue that weekend. She'd always been the successful one, working in tech startups, understanding how business deals actually worked. Elena examined my prototype with what seemed like genuine amazement. She promised to help connect me with manufacturers and investors, said she knew exactly the right people who could turn my invention into something that would secure Sophia's future. What I didn't know was that Elena had very different plans for my breakthrough discovery. But that story gets much darker before it gets better. Those 6 months after Elena took my prototype felt like the longest waiting period of my life. She'd call every couple weeks with updates that sounded promising, but never seemed to lead anywhere concrete. Still working on finding the right manufacturing partner, she'd say. Or, the regulatory landscape is more complex than we initially thought. Each conversation left me feeling hopeful, yet somehow unsettled. During those months, I kept myself busy improving the prototype. My garage had transformed into a proper workshop by then. Sophia would sit cross-legged on an old carpet, working on math problems while I fine-tuned the electromagnetic calibration. The device was getting better with each iteration, faster processing, lower power consumption, even more contaminants filtered out. What I didn't realize was that while I was perfecting my invention, Elena was perfecting her theft. The morning I discovered her betrayal started like any other Tuesday. Sophia needed new school supplies, so I stopped by the grocery store after my shift. Makes sense to grab essentials while I was out, right? I was walking past the magazine rack when something made me freeze in place. There was Elena's face, beaming from the cover of Forbes magazine. The headline read, CEO of Aquapure Technologies, $50 million success story. Below that, in smaller text, how Elena Martinez revolutionized water purification with breakthrough technology. My hands started shaking as I grabbed the magazine. The article described her innovative approach to water filtration, using graphene membranes and electromagnetic purification. Every single technical detail matched my invention perfectly. Not similar, identical, but here's the part that really twisted the knife. The article quoted Elena saying she developed the technology after witnessing the water crisis affecting low-income families. She claimed her motivation came from wanting to help children who couldn't afford clean water. She was using my daughter's suffering as her origin story. I abandoned my shopping cart right there in aisle 7 and raced home. Sophia was at my neighbor's house doing homework, which was good because I needed to process this nightmare alone. My laptop had never booted up so slowly. When I finally got online, the reality hit me like a freight train. Aquapure Technologies had a slick website featuring product demonstrations of my exact invention. Elena had given interviews to tech blogs explaining her breakthrough discovery. There were investor pitch videos where she confidently described the science I'd spent months figuring out in my garage. She'd even filed patents under her company name, somehow beating my original filing to approval. The worst part? She was good at it. Elena had always been articulate and polished in ways I wasn't. Watching her explain my invention with such confidence and authority, I almost started believing she'd actually created it herself. That evening, I called Elena directly. My voice was shaking with anger, but I tried to keep it together. Elena, we need to talk about Aquapure Technologies. Her response chilled me to the bone. No surprise, no embarrassment, no attempt to explain or apologize. Just cold calculation. Marcus, I was wondering when you'd figure it out. She suggested we meet at her new corporate offices the next day. The address she gave me was in the downtown business district, a far cry from the cramped startup spaces she used to complain about. Walking into that gleaming office building felt surreal. The elevator ride to the 15th floor gave me time to rehearse what I wanted to say, but nothing could have prepared me for what was waiting. Elena's corner office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Awards and accolades lined her bookshelf. A scale model of my water purification device sat prominently on her desk like a trophy. She gestured for me to sit across from her, and I noticed she'd positioned herself so the sunlight created an almost halo effect around her head. Before you say anything, she began, you need to understand how business really works. Then Elena laid out the most calculated betrayal I'd ever witnessed. She explained how she'd been bribing a contact inside the patent office to delay, and ultimately bury certain applications. Mine specifically, her insider would flag promising inventions from amateur inventors, then Elena's legal team would swoop in with competing filings backed by proper lawyers and documentation. The patent system favors people who understand the game, she said, leaning back in her leather chair. You filed a decent application, Marcus, but you didn't follow up properly. You didn't have the legal representation to navigate challenges. You made it easy. What really got to me was how she justified everything. Elena claimed she was actually helping by bringing my invention to market faster than I ever could. She talked about creating jobs, serving customers, building a real company, as if stealing made her some kind of visionary entrepreneur. You're a brilliant inventor, she continued, but you're terrible at business. This technology needed someone who could actually execute. Look what I've accomplished in 6 months. She wasn't wrong about her execution. Elena had secured major manufacturing contracts, distribution partnerships, and investor funding. AquaPure devices were already being sold in 3 states. Her stolen version of my invention was helping thousands of families access clean water. That success made the betrayal cut even deeper. But Elena wasn't finished twisting the knife. She pulled out a legal document and slid it across her desk. I'm prepared to offer you a consulting position, $50,000 annually, plus benefits. You'd work in our R&D department, developing improvements to the technology. The audacity was breathtaking. She wanted to hire me to improve my own stolen invention. What if I refuse? I asked. What if I fight this? Elena's smile turned predatory. With what resources, Marcus? I have a team of lawyers, documented patents, and a $50 million company. You have a garage workshop and a daughter to support. Even if you somehow proved your case, the legal battle would take years and cost more than you'll make in your lifetime. Then came the line that sealed her fate. Go back to your garage, cousin. Build something new. But leave the business world to people who actually understand how it works. What Elena didn't know was that I'd been recording our entire conversation on my phone. Every admission of bribery, every detail about patent office corruption, every arrogant dismissal of my rights, all captured in crystal clear audio. She'd made one crucial mistake in all her calculated planning. Elena assumed I was still the naive inventor who'd trusted her at that family barbecue. But watching your daughter nearly die from contaminated water changes a man. And discovering your family has stolen your life's work, that transforms you completely. As I walked out of her office, phone safely tucked in my pocket, I realized Elena had given me everything I needed to destroy her empire. She just didn't know it yet. That recording became my secret weapon, but I had to be smart about using it. Going public immediately would have felt satisfying, but Elena was right about one thing. She had resources I didn't. What she underestimated was my ability to learn from watching her operate. The first call I made was to Sarah Chen, an investigative journalist who specialized in patent fraud cases. I'd found her articles while researching Elena's company. Sarah had exposed similar schemes before, and more importantly, she understood the technical aspects of intellectual property theft. When I played her the recording, the silence on her end stretched for almost 30 seconds. Marcus, she finally said, this is bigger than just your invention. Turns out, Elena's patent office insider had been flagging dozens of applications from independent inventors. Sarah connected me with 3 other victims who'd had their work stolen through identical methods. A retired teacher who'd developed a solar panel improvement, a single mom who'd created a revolutionary baby formula warmer, a veteran who'd designed better prosthetic joints. All of them had trusted the wrong people, just like I had. But here's where Elena made her second crucial mistake. She'd gotten greedy. While I was building my case with Sarah, Elena was busy expanding AquaPure technologies. She'd started targeting bigger fish, established companies with deeper pockets. Her bribery scheme had escalated to stealing patents from small corporations, not just individual inventors. That meant federal prosecutors were already investigating when my evidence landed on their desks. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. I spent 3 weeks documenting everything. My original patent filing with timestamps, photos of my prototype development process, complete with dates, screenshots of every text message and email Elena had sent during those 6 months of fake progress updates. The paper trail painted a clear picture of systematic deception. Then there was the recording itself. Elena hadn't just admitted to bribing a patent office employee, she detailed the entire operation, names, methods, specific cases. She'd been so confident in her immunity that she'd basically confessed to multiple federal crimes while trying to intimidate me. Sarah published her expose on a Thursday morning. The headline read, "Tech CEO built empire on stolen patents. Secret recording reveals bribery scheme." My phone started ringing within minutes of the article going live. Patent attorneys offering free consultations, other inventors sharing their own stories of suspicious rejections, local news stations wanting interviews. Elena's world was crumbling in real time, and I had a front row seat to watch it happen. The FBI arrested Elena's patent office contact that same afternoon. By evening, federal agents had raided Aquapure Technologies' offices. Elena's investors started demanding answers she couldn't provide. Her board of directors called an emergency meeting. Stock prices, if she'd had any, would have been in free fall. But the most satisfying moment came 3 days later when Elena called me directly. Her voice sounded nothing like the confident executive who dismissed me from her corner office. This Elena was desperate, panicked, trying to negotiate some kind of damage control. She offered to return my patent rights, to pay licensing fees, to publicly acknowledge my ownership of the technology. Too little, too late. The business world isn't as complicated as you made it sound, I told her. Turns out, having the right evidence makes everything pretty straightforward. Within 2 weeks, Aquapure Technologies was facing criminal charges, civil lawsuits, and complete financial collapse. Elena's legal team couldn't defend against the recording. Her own words had created an ironclad case against her. The patent office launched a full investigation, and my original filing was reinstated with priority dating back to my initial submission. Now here's the part that really made everything worthwhile. Instead of just winning back my rights, I had the chance to do something Elena never could have imagined. I could build something honest. While Elena's empire burned, I was quietly setting up my own company, but this time, I knew exactly how the business world worked. The beautiful thing about having your own company, you get to decide what matters. I named it Clean Stream Technologies. Not the flashiest brand, but it represented everything Elena's company wasn't. Honest, straightforward, built on actual innovation instead of theft. My first hire was Dr. Patricia Williams, the retired teacher whose solar panel patent Elena had stolen. Turns out, brilliant inventors make excellent partners when you treat them with respect. Who would have thought? Our second hire was James Rodriguez, the veteran with the prosthetic design. Suddenly, I had a team of people who understood what it felt like to have their life's work stolen. We didn't need $50 million in investor funding. We had something better. We owned our technology, legitimately. No legal battles, no hidden bribes, no corporate lawyers calling at midnight because someone discovered we'd built our empire on quicksand. The first clean stream device rolled off our manufacturing line 6 months after Elena's arrest. Same water purification technology, but now it was going to families who actually needed it. We partnered with schools in low-income districts, community centers, places where kids like Sophia couldn't afford the fancy systems but deserved clean water anyway. Elena, she's currently serving 18 months in federal prison for patent fraud and bribery. Aquapure Technologies declared bankruptcy after paying settlements to every inventor she'd stolen from. Her corner office with the floor-to-ceiling windows got converted into a storage closet. Sometimes justice has a sense of humor. But here's what I didn't expect. The recording that destroyed Elena's career also made me something of a folk hero among independent inventors. I started getting calls from people who'd been screwed over by patent trolls, corrupt officials, and family members who'd betrayed their trust. My garage became an unofficial support group for people who'd learned the hard way that brilliance and business sense are completely different skills. Sophia's 10 now. She helps me test new prototypes after school, just like she did in the old garage. Except now, our workshop has proper lighting and equipment that doesn't look like it belongs in a science fiction movie from 1987. Last week, she asked me why I never seemed angry about what Elena did anymore. Smart kid. I told her the truth. Elena taught me the most valuable lesson of my life. Trust the wrong people, and they'll steal your dreams. But trust the right people, they'll help you build something bigger than you ever imagined possible. Clean water for everyone. That was always the real goal anyway.